I'm going to show a video clip of a homicide. If you do not want to see a video clip of a homicide, please stop this video and watch another video. Get to the count of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Pulled off a BART train for allegedly fighting. The incident was caught on cell phone video. Mehserle is set to stand trial in October.
I've slowed down the video to point out two things. First off, there's a person sitting on the ground next to the victim. The victim is laying face down with his hands handcuffed behind his back. When the gun went off, a person can see in this video that that person who is sitting down raised his hands to protect his face. I assume blood and gore went flying. At this point, the weapon had discharged and the person sitting on the ground was raising his arms. The officer who pulled the trigger was still in the process of standing. He is the person in the background closest to the window. Here we see the pistol in the hand of the shooter. The shooter claims that he believed this was a taser in his hand and not a pistol. And then the guy on the ground uses his hands to wipe the splatter off of his face and cap. Some observations. Observation number 1. By golly, am I glad I'm not black. Observation number 2. By golly, I'm glad I'm not a black person who has to take the train in Oakland. Or anywhere else for that matter. Third observation. District Attorney's Office has charged the shooter, the transit authority police officer, law enforcement officer, with murder, which doesn't make any sense to me. You cannot prove first-degree murder because you cannot, a prosecutor cannot prove to a jury that it was premeditated and that it was intended to result in a death of a human being. It can't show malice, so not first-degree murder. I don't think the prosecutor can show or prove to a jury that it was second-degree murder because even if it was not premeditated, I don't see there being intent involved and I don't see malice involved. Second-degree manslaughter, you don't have to show premeditation, you don't have to show intent, you just have to show malice and an accidental death resulting from that malice, and I'm not sure that a prosecutor can prove to a jury that malice was involved. So, Desert File prediction here. The defense is going to ask the prosecutor for the charges to be reduced to second-degree manslaughter under a plea bargain, and the charge of murder will be dropped, and the second-degree murder will be pled guilty to, and the guy will face maybe 15 years in prison, and he'll get off out of prison in maybe 8 or 10 years with time served and good behavior being removed, 5 or 7 years of the sentence. I'm not sure what I think about the shooter deserving a second-degree manslaughter and having time served and time off for good behavior. If the victim had not been face down with his hands handcuffed behind his back when the accidental manslaughter occurred, say the gun accidentally discharged while the victim was standing in line or something, I can see time being taken off of the shooter's time in prison. But the victim was, absolutely, totally helpless. He had been subdued. He'd been, rendered harmless. And as the police officer you saw in the video, while he was standing up, he had his finger on the fucking trigger. And while his legs were being, stressed, flexed into a standing position, his finger contracted on the fucking trigger. Even though it was a fucking accident, there's no excuse. Therefore, the guy ought to spend at least, the full 15 years in prison. And some of you people wonder why I'm not out there in the real world. You wonder why I'm sequestered here, you know, living among just myself and, you know, horses and goats and chickens and dogs and whatnot, and a hell of a lot of cats. It's because of people with guns on their hips with the badge of authority saying that they are allowed to wander around with those guns and don't know what the fuck they are doing. They can't demarcate between a contact taser and a fucking 6-shooter revolver. So the shooter's excuse is that he thought he had a taser in his hand and instead of his service revolver, even though they're different shapes, different size, different weights, different fill. He thought it was a taser and not a pistol. Yeah.